Hello and welcome to SME TV. This is our Let's Talk Views segment and I'm your host, Angela Vithoulkas. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can support us and all SMEs, and we encourage you to share, like and comment. Can you see the future? Well, our guest, Mr. Craig Rispin, can. Craig is an award-winning speaker, mentor and author, and he's a futurist. And yes, that actually is a real job. Welcome, Craig.
Thank you so much, Angela. Oh, wow. I know that so many people are struggling right now in the SME space, but I'm totally optimistic about the future because I can see it's going to be better in the future. And
So,
everybody needs to focus on that.
Cheekily, I'm going to ask you, where is your crystal ball?
No, futurists don't use crystal balls. You can talk to Jennifer Angel about that.
Yes. I'm making a note.
Yes. No, futurists have been using very sophisticated tools to do forecasts of what might possibly happen in the future. Not definitely, but we can see big trends. There's 20,000 of us in our peak industry group. About a third are academic researchers, third come from government and NGOs, and a third come from the business world. That's where I come from. I'm a business futurist.
So is it data?
It is data and also, interviewing people about what they think and experts and so on. So when I do future planning for lots of different industry groups, peak industry groups, like the fish markets, like, I don't want to brag, okay? I'm just saying who I've worked with, the Pork Association and other big businesses and industry groups. And I always use data and humans because
we still need the human factor, but
we do, or else we just have data. We don't have wisdom. That's what we need.
I've seen a lot of your videos online at various events that you've been to and that you've spoken at. The construction industry is an interesting one where you've considered their future and the future trends and how tech fits in with them. And one of your little rough rogue videos was where you were in a park watching two robots with building a bridge.
Yes, that's right. So these robots printing out metal, and that's using AI and human design skills.
Yep.
And that's what I use. I have a fabulous little AI assistant called Athena. Athena is an AI that I can ask any question, like what's the future of the fish markets? What's the future of airports? And in a tenth of a second, she'll scan 394,000 sources currently, filter out all the fake news, and just go to scholarly research and industry research, deliver that to me, slice and dice it, put it into an industry report in a tenth of a second. But then
how much time does that save you, Craig?
Let's see, hundreds of thousands of hours at least so far. And it's not just for me, because lots of other futurists use this service. And then what we do is we peer review. So this is the human side. So you use the data, you use AI to sort it, and then you present it to experts and you say, what do you think about this? What's your opinion, Angela? What do you think? Do you think we're going to recover in 12 months or 2 years?
So that's where the discussion comes in. So you've brought up the elephant in the room that almost every interview seems to have a component of, which is the global pandemic and COVID-19.
Yes.
And you are having to look to the future now, even more so, I think, Craig, because we're in this flux of a moment where so many industries are on the cusp of new things and new tech and emerging businesses and industries who probably have had a really big push because of the global pandemic. So maybe they're a little bit ahead of schedule. But for us humans who still live on Earth and not so far up where you are, how you are being optimistic, but really, why?
Yeah. Why? Because I'll tell you why. Because we're transitioning our economy. And yes, that influences all businesses at all levels. And the ones that I see that are already ahead of us, and yes, the future is not evenly distributed, as William Gibson says, and I credit him for that. It's not evenly distributed in any way, and different industries are evolving at different rates. But I can see, because I get invited to these businesses that are far ahead of the rest of us, and I can see what's happening, and I know what's going to be coming afterwards. And so, yes, I'm booked more than ever. Last Thursday, I did 6 of these. I did 6 Zoom calls that were turned into a podcast or as a live meeting presentation to CEOs. And what were they asking me? What comes next? Because they want to get over this as soon as possible, and they want to be prepared.
So the incentive there is obviously their business growth, but the smart ones are having to kind of guillotine what they've been doing because of the global pandemic and say, right, we need to pivot really fast and leapfrog ahead on the anticipation of emerging trends and industries. Craig, is it fair to say that the emerging trends and industries is fast-tracked now? Is it a huge leapfrog over? Are we missing out on a step or a level?
This is true. It is. It is a step change. So I can show you a chart. And I want to show you this chart. I want to share this Venn diagram that is based on the research from the World Economic Forum, who endorsed my research from 25 years ago. But I wanted to give context to that.
Craig.
Yes. Well, listen, I only do it because I want to share. I want to help because I know what's happening. My own income was impacted incredibly because I had all of my live events that pay me very well that instantly canceled because everybody held up a white flag going, we're going to cancel our conference. But a third of them pivoted to virtual conferences and lowered their registration fee, which they should because it costs them less.
That's right.
And so I've been incredibly busy delivering at virtual conferences. And also, I always know that the best time to launch a new business, believe it or not, is during a recession. All the great businesses that are out there right now that we know about, Uber and Airbnb and Southwestern Airlines, all these businesses are struggling now because of the pandemic, but they were all launched during a recession and everybody was in the GFC and in crisis. And what do? And they started a new business. And this is the time to pivot, to change, to take this disaster as an opportunity to invest in the future and come out on the other side in a much bigger way.
It does take a fearless person though, Craig, to embrace that in a time where unemployment, most people in their living memory won't have remembered unemployment at 10%.
They don't remember.
And more going, they won't remember the true effects of a recession because it's been, more than a quarter of a century ago where we had a recession. We've got the phenomena of very low interest rates, whereas our last recession, business interest rates were 18 and 20%. So even those of us that do remember that, it's still a very different time.
It's a very different time, but here's the good news. The good news is that so many of these organizations around the world have contributed to the future. So I'll give you an example of this. Microsoft and a website called Pluralsight, and Microsoft have made their courses that are quite expensive, and they're certifications that you get with a test. So you're certified to work in this area. They've made it free for the next 5 years. Next 5 years, not the next 5 months, not the next 6 months. And what can you learn on that Azure training site? So it's about Azure. It's Microsoft's cloud platform. You can learn if you wanted to pivot to this and you think, I'm pretty smart. I could probably do a course in 3 or 4 months and get a certification and get hired. Well, their jobs are in demand in the machine learning space, for instance, that 45% of them are unfilled right now. So you could do a short course with industry certification in 3 to 4 months for free on Pluralsight. You get that Microsoft Azure certification and you would get hired like that. But what if you don't want to be hired?
They're feeding their pipeline, right? They're recognizing where their gaps are going to be and they're saying, well, we need people for this work. that's our projection. That's probably you giving them advice on emerging trends and people and saying, well, you're going to need all of these people to feed the rest of your growth. How are you going to get all these qualified people? Guess what? We'll make the training free.
Exactly. That's their biggest problem, because they're going to clients and they're saying, hey, your computers were on your premises.
Yep.
You need to get them into the cloud. And they're like, oh, we don't have enough engineers to do that.
Yeah.
And so we got to train people like right now, because you can do this remotely. They can literally send people to your premise. They can pick up your computer. They can move it to a data center that costs $250 a month. $250 a month, and it's got not a 1 gig connection, a 40 gigabit connection to the internet. So your entire server that you had in your office can get uploaded into the cloud, but you need the engineers to pick it up, plug it in, and so on.
Yeah.
And so we have a huge shortage, and you could rescope, but you're like, oh, I don't want a job. I want to run a business. So turn it into a business. Think about that as a service. You could say, we will pick up your computers. We'll take it to the data center. We'll upload everything for you and show you how you can access it remotely anywhere. And it doesn't have to be in the office. And you could offer that as a service. Now, some of your listeners already do that. And they're going to be going, Craig, why are you telling people to compete? Trust me, the opportunity right now is much bigger than any one organization or even hundreds.
Market. Yeah, it's a big ocean. There's a lot of fish can swim in this ocean that we have in the tech world. But one of the things you look at is to reveal the unseen.
That is my purpose.
Pull back the curtain, right?
Yes, that's right. And so I've been looking into the future for a long time. And this is my Venn diagram that I've been updating for 25 years, and the areas of my expertise. So I look at technology, and I look at people, the impact of people, and internal people, workforce, external people, customers. I advise in that area quite a bit. And then emerging business trends and how they're all interrelated. And you can see that now. And this is what I'm so excited about, is that these areas have now been recognized by the World Economic Forum and so on. They endorse what I'm doing. And I want to show, so to give a clue, pathways for the future. So I want to show this slide, which is the Venn diagram of the future, literally, where all the future wealth and opportunities are coming from. So this is the digital, biological, and physical futures. So not so different from mine, which is technology, people, biological, and then physical. So physical is a physical world. And this is where all the future wealth is coming from. And if I could show you my portfolio, I would, because I put it on my LinkedIn profile. So I don't want to brag, but I just want to show everyone that if you invested in the past and the future, like I have in 2013, my portfolio is up more than 100%. And that's in a market where it's, up, down, sideways, as Alan Kohler is saying. Yes. And so this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to provide breadcrumbs to the future where you could be. And so I'll give you for instance, a small business owner came to me and she said, Craig, I'm so passionate about mental health issues, and specifically working with veterans and with PTSD. And I know that virtual reality, and I went ding, 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 digital virtual reality, ding, 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 that's good. So what we found is using a virtual reality with headsets, we can deliver therapies that are really useful to veterans that have got PTSD. But I can't get the establishment, the medical industry, to do any research and endorse what I'm doing. And I said, that's fantastic. And she said, why? And I said, because I know how you can get the data, and then they would want to research it, and then they would endorse what you do. And she said, what? And I said, well, do you know about neurotechnology? She said, I don't. I've heard a little bit about it, but tell me about it, Craig. And I said, well, there are these devices we can put on your headset. They're called emotive with no E on the end, just IV on the end, emotive. And they can scan, do an EEG on your head. And what it does is it can see inside your brain, really maps your brain. And so you could put this on a veteran, with their permission, show them that therapy, and you can measure the before and the after. and you'd have all that data. And this device now, thanks to the industrial, the third industrial revolution was computers and communication, and things get cheaper all the time because of Moore's law. Thanks to that, that little device is $329 US.
So
But
you just brought up the third industrial revolution. We are
yes,
looking at the fourth industrial revolution now.
that's right, we
How
are.
how is that figuring into a futurist world?
Well, these are what not only the futurists talk about, but the 1,800 delegates to Davos, to the World Economic Forum, voted on the technologies most likely to change business in the next 10 years. And so they voted on each of these, and they voted on, this is what we think. And so that's what informs this. And so when people come to me and say, what should we be focusing on? I say to them, this is our what. And if you're already working in the technology area, you need to team it up with the biological area. If you're a builder, why don't you use biology? And they say, building, biology, how does that work? Well, there are new materials, I have to say, that are fantastic. They're made out of fungus, and they're better than bricks. And they're flame retardant and great insulators as well. And so there's all these opportunities that if you're in one industry to pivot just a little bit, add that other bit, and all of a sudden you're launching yourself into the fourth industrial revolution. And I'll show you the great story, the story of how much faster this next fourth industrial revolution will be
Yes.
compared to the last one.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So many futurists, most of my colleagues, more than 20,000 of them, believe that this fourth industrial revolution will be more than 100 times faster, bigger, faster, and bigger than Moore's law. And that line you see there, Moore's law, is, we're getting really good at reading these charts because we see so many of them because of the situation we're in now with the pandemic. And so if you normally see an exponential curve, it curves up like this. But this is on a logarithmic scale, so a factor of 10 down the left-hand side. And so we can see that in 2001, you could buy a computer for $10 million, and now in 2019, or last year in 2019, it costs $10,000, and that's because of Moore's law. Now, that other line you're looking at is the cost per megabase of DNA sequencing, and this is what's required for COVID testing, by the way.
Yep.
And you can see that it crashed from $10 million costs to 10 cents. 10 cents. And has no one been asking the question, how did we diagnose millions of people? Don't these tests cost a lot? No, they don't.
They don't.
They don't. And that's because the intersection of technology bumping up against the biological area, so the digital, and all of a sudden, boom, the explosion, 100 times faster and better. So this is what I want to say to SMEs, that you've got to look at what you're doing, and you got to add on one of those other bubbles. Big why, that is the what before. This is the because of this, because it's going to be 100 times faster. And what you should know is we've already started making this transition into the fourth industrial revolution. We've already been making this transition. It's already started.
But is it fair to say, though, that the global pandemic provided a little bit more fuel to speed that up anyway? So we were going there, but
we're headed that direction, but a lot of these things have been kicked along because of the pandemic, which is great.
We are unfortunately going to run out of time, but I wanted to make another comment on what you favor saying, which is just be disrupted or be the disruptor.
Absolutely.
And that's taking control of our own future, right?
Because if you invest in right now, you could get these kind of returns that I'm getting. That's 114% return. And I'm not a financial expert in any way, and I'm not giving financial advice.
No.
I'm showing you what I've done for my own family. I'm giving you the same advice I would give any member. Retrain right now. Get an industry certification. You can do it in 3 months' time. Bolt it onto your existing business, and you will get the power of the fourth industrial revolution to back up what you're doing. There's so much more that I would love to share with you.
And
But
just
like
quickly,
you said, we're running out of time.
But
And
we do
there's
want to,
so much more I want to share.
we do want to very quickly mention your 2 new startups that you're doing.
Yes, and
and
one is based on that financial research,
Sure.
and that's called Explore Future Wealth at explorefuturewealth.com, and it's only for wholesale sophisticated investors. And the other one is a landscaping
My
industry.
favorite one, yes.
Yes, and landscaping startup called Lux Escape. Design, Lux Escape. And what we do is we use drones to scan your property. We do digital design and we give it to you within 2 days. And it's because we can do this, but nobody else is doing it in the industry, and we're disrupting the industry massively already. And I have to say, it wasn't my idea. Actually, an entrepreneur came to me and he said, Craig, I think we can use these technologies. We tested it in 5 days using a design sprint, and that's what you can do. You can launch a new business in 5 days, and I'd love to show people how to do that. We tested it. The feedback was incredible, and we've already got our first 10 customers. Yep. And I'm talking about customers in the tens of thousands of dollars, not hundreds of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. The design is only hundreds of dollars, $500, but then they say, could you get all this stuff for me and deliver it? And we deliver it at a substantial discount. So I'm not trying to pitch these businesses. I want to show.
It's a one-stop shop to solve a problem of having to get it designed, fix the design, not really sure what it's going to look like. The massive cost that people have if they buy young plants or mature plants. Speaking as someone that's unfortunately invested a lot of money occasionally on those things, and then you're not even sure if you're going to like it. So they get to see it.
Hold it phone and they walk around and see what their garden looks like. So if people want to see this, I don't want to talk about it much anymore because we're using up time, but go to luxescape.design, watch our explainer video for only this reason. We're not looking for more customers. I'm not promoting that because we're not even in New South Wales right now, but if you're in Victoria, we could come out and do this for you very soon. But here's the reason I'm showing it is that anyone can do this. I'm not substantially smarter than anybody else out there. Really, I'm not. And I'm really lazy. I'm really lazy. So I use these technologies to amplify what I can get done. You can too.
You sound a little bit smarter than the average Joe, Craig. Let's not talk you down, but let's be grateful that we have you and we have access to you to hear your thoughts and the advice that you give, and sort of shaking us up a little bit, because I think the other silver lining of what's going on right now is that we are actually thinking a little bit more. We can't afford to be complacent, but we've all found ourselves with a little bit more time on our hands than we would have liked.
And so what? Why not reinvent yourself, your business, your family's wealth right now? Now's the time to do it. That's my message of hope.
And on that note, now's the time to do it, we want to thank you very much for joining us here on SME TV and for sharing with us the future, a tiny little glimpse of the future, or our ability to do so. We encourage everyone watching right now to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can support us and all SMEs. And of course, if you have any ideas for the future, you can email us news@smea.org.au, and we're across all the socials as well. Thank you so much, Craig, for joining us.
Welcome.
We hope to speak to you again soon, because we'd like to glimpse a little bit of our future too.
That'd be great. Book me in for any time. I just love to help.
Thank you.